Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to recap ADCC Dallas, Texas Open, the absolute for that, and a couple of things on that. I just got back from that event, so we'll talk about that. We are also going to preview a couple of upcoming matches that are announced and some general BJJ news. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine. It's my co-host,
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda? Pretty
good. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. So if I sound a little weird, it's because I have no voice. I just got back from Texas. At like 3:30 this morning, back into Baltimore.
Yeah, I think as you were waking up, or as you were going to sleep, I was waking up to teach 6 a.m. class.
Oh, Jesus. So I went out this weekend to ADCC Dallas. I judged on Mat 9 for 17 hours. In ADCC judging. It's a very loud event, and I need to yell action and other things at the competitors throughout the day. So after a full day of that, I have very little voice, so apologies. Next week, voice should be back to normal, but really great event. Over 1,300 competitors at the event. I've had mostly, as far as adult advanced go, the 65 kilogram division for the men. My people, super impressed with how those guys look. These opens have gotten bigger and bigger, and the quality of talent is stark. The first 2 rounds, always usually a bloodbath, and then from there, the matches get really good. I also judged Costa Mesa Open and the Vegas Open, and this event, people know the rules now in a way that they didn't know 2 months ago or 9 months ago.
That's good.
I'm really impressed with how much guys have changed their camps, and there was very few, every event I've done, there's been less and less questions from the coaches and the athletes as to why stuff happened.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see how quickly the community as a whole has prepared for these events and started to make those changes and get that, okay, there's no points for the first half of the match. Why they're no one. I think one match of the 120 I did this weekend went to overtime, and they went, what? Why is it? Everyone else just knew if it was even. They went to overtime. So it's really cool to see the change in the community in such a short span, and people are super ready. How for the tactics change, people will either pull guard at the beginning and then stand up and force to wrestle later. I'm seeing in judging more and more of these events, the shift from the athletes and how they're preparing for that ADCC rule set. Also, 6-minute regulation time, that is the way to go for an open like this. We have the ability as judges to call for action, activity, and issue penalties.
Yeah.
There were not a lot of them.
6 minutes?
So
I swore they were 10.
For trials and for world championships.
But when I did the Open in Vegas, I think it was
Vegas was different.
Okay.
So Vegas Open was a little different.
Okay.
That was,
because I was I know I did overtime and my match, and it was ridiculous amount of time because we sewed the entire time, and I thought I was going to die.
Yeah. So for the Opens, they are 6 minutes for adults, and then you have up to a 3-minute overtime.
Naga style.
Basically, but that people can go for 6 minutes.
I always liked 5 to 6 minute matches.
Yeah.
I always felt like that was enough time that you had to move.
Yeah.
You couldn't sit around, and for whatever reason, that time period does not scare me.
Yeah, I like the 10 minutes. Again, we've talked about it for years and years and years on the show. Unless you're at a super high level event, for these opens, for general events, those shorter time periods, I find you just get better activity out of the athletes. They're ready to go. They're moving. You eliminate, especially an IBGF, those 10-minute matches.
Yeah.
For the black belts, the first 2 minutes most of the time is a feeling out process.
Yeah.
You're getting your grips. You're ready. You're moving, and then the activity of the match will typically happen in bursts later.
Yeah.
For ADCC, we'll talk about it in Luke Griffith's run here. He had no buys in the final, so for the absolute, there were, I think, 103 people registered.
He had 7 matches. I think
he had 7 matches in the absolute. Not one of them went over 2 minutes, or I think maybe just around 2 minutes. He didn't. Flow Grappling had an article. There was not a single one of his matches went to the points period.
Okay.
So that means everything was under 3 minutes. So for a guy to run through an absolute bracket that quickly, that just kind of gives you a feeling for...
It was also 10 o'clock at night. So
it was 11.
11 o'clock at night.
11.
So at that point, you want to get the fuck home.
Everyone was ready to go by the time we got to the absolute. And there were a lot of drops in the absolute because it ended up being so late. But funny enough,
but it didn't seem like Luke Griffith had any drops.
He had no buy. He had no buys.
He had no buys
He
at all.
started at round of 128 and then had a match every single bracket. If you look at the bracket, there's a lot of like forfeits and buys in there because of how late it was, and people did their division earlier in the day and then went, oh, this is ADCC. I am not ready for the absolute.
They didn't want to do the Grappling Industries. Let's have your next bracket 10 hours later.
Yeah. Well, or they just realized like in their division, because ADCC lets you register for the Open. Like a lot of organizations like IBJJF, you have to medal in your bracket to register for the Open for the lower belts.
Yeah.
And for the black belts, you're allowed to register. ADCC goes, hey man, you want to register for the absolute? Go for it. And so there were 100 plus registrants in it, and then Luke Griffith got no buys for his entire bracket and then won the bracket.
Well, it wasn't like he had any problems with that. So.
No, again, everything under 2 minutes. We can talk through a bunch of his matches. Overall, it was a wild weekend. Very, very tired from it. But here, happy to be here doing the show after a nice night of sleep, half night of sleep at the house. I'm trying to think of any other big ADCC news. There's a couple upcoming events for like Chicago and Phoenix, and there's going to be one in Atlantic City the same weekend as Trials.
There's one in Chicago?
I think so, yeah.
When is Chicago going to be? I'll do Chicago. Chicago's close enough.
I think it's September is the tentative date for it.
Okay, so that'd be after Master Worlds. Okay.
I believe so, yep. So, yeah, overall it was a ton of fun. Miranda, how do you want to run through the show? We didn't have a ton other than ADCC Dallas this weekend. That was my entire weekend.
Let's do one little fight to win match.
Oh yeah, so fight to win 231 main event
in Los Angeles,
in LA. Mm-hmm. So Seth actually wasn't at that. So this is the first ADCC event that I've done.
I thought that was his voice telling
it's
everybody.
Sean Fowler. Yeah, Sean.
Okay. Because I kept on hearing somebody saying, such and so, you have been disqualified.
Yeah.
And I thought that was him, but then I was like,
Sean.
Okay.
Dude, I love hearing him this weekend was great. He is so clear on the mic when you call for athletes. And so if you're behind the scenes for ADCC, we try not to DQ people because generally it makes for a bad experience.
If you watched all the finals for Dallas this weekend, they were forfeiting matches left and right.
There had been like an hour break between when the absolute started, and so that was like 10 o'clock at night was when that kind of kicked off.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people had gotten injured earlier in the day because they registered for the Open like days and weeks in advance, and then day of they either got injured or left or pick and choose the reasons. So a lot of drops had happened, and it was so late, and so he was basically just reading through the list of. Basically, either get to your mat now, because there was probably only a couple hundred people in the whole venue. Either get to your mat now or be disqualified because you're probably not here.
How many cowboy hats did you see?
A lot of them. There were a lot of cowboy hats down in Texas.
Dallas, I can imagine. Dallas has lots of cowboy hats.
I want to say actually, it was about what I expected. It wasn't like a cowboy movie. Okay. But there was definitely like people unironically down in Texas wearing that style of Stetson hat.
It was really weird when I came back from Boston and I was in Baltimore. I had a whole group of guys on my little bus that takes you to your car in cowboy hats.
Oh, that's really funny.
And it was really weird, and I couldn't figure it out, and I was way too tired to try to figure out why those gentlemen were in cowboy hats.
I love the little kids. Like the 5-year-olds in the cowboy hat and the cowboy boots. That was always that was kind of cute to see this weekend. But let's talk about Fight to Win 231 in Los Angeles, California. This one was main evented by Mateus Luna versus Michael. Can you give me his last name? Kachikin. We saw Michael Kachikin. You looked it up on was it Who's Number One?
Who's Number One in February 7th of 2020 against.
Yeah, so it's been a while, and they put him against Tynan Dauper when Dauper was still a brown belt.
They were both brown belts.
Yeah,
it was brown belt middleweight.
Yep, and so Mateus Luna is currently the champion. I think it's welterweight champion was what it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Seth said it on the broadcast, and I couldn't pick it out. I listened to it a couple times. The crowd was kind of loud. I couldn't exactly hear what division he was saying. But Luna comes out. Luna pulls immediately, like pretty good jumping guard pull. Like immediately he wants to end up in the guard. We've seen Mateus Luna on Fight to Win. That is kind of his prerogative most of the time. He wants to play from the guard, wants to sweep the top, and he does that immediately here. Just really clean hip bump sweep, pretty much. Yeah. Just a hip bump sweep to mount. And the commentary was talking about him crossing his legs under the mount, and he eventually gets to a mounted body triangle.
Yeah.
Which is in there in the gi, that's not something we see very often at all in like high level matches. Guys get up high enough and then actually get
I think it's
able to
also
get the body
I think it's
triangle.
also a leg thing. Like you gotta have enough legs to actually be able to do that. Like you gotta have a lot of legs and have a skinny person.
Yeah, it's
Because like even like regular body triangles, I mean people get them on me all the time, and they always make the same comment. They're always like, "Oh, you're skinny, I can get a triangle." You know,
yeah.
I'm like, go fuck yourself.
Yep.
But anyway,
But from the mound, it's uncommon. Like you see it from the guard. Actually, I was surprised in Texas this weekend
yeah,
how many guys I saw go to the body triangle from the bottom. And they didn't do it for like a long period of time because ADCC will
you mean-
call you for stalling.
you mean in guard?
In guard itself.
Okay.
But it was something like I've been watching. We've watched a lot of jiu-jitsu recently. It's not something we see. You see it typically in women's matches at the lower weight classes, and
Yeah.
you see it like in finals when people are a little tired, they'll go to it. I see people now going to this weekend especially going to that body triangle from the guard a lot more frequently. Early in the match, like to set something up or like take a break for a second, they body triangle from the guard. They'll do something with their hands or they'll make some motion and then they'll unlock it and do something else. But that's like a tactic that I hadn't seen much recently at all, aside from like this weekend.
I think
It was interesting.
A lot of people also have been doing more like full guard.
Yeah.
Like, if full guard in nogi, I don't think was very popular until maybe the last year, maybe 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, it was really
It was
popular back in the
It
day.
was popular back in the day, but then it went into like open guard, and then it was open guard for quite a while.
Yeah, we've seen a ton of open guard. And I think we're seeing a shift back to the closed guard from everything. What you finding
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if anything said it. I got nothing.
for next week?
No, I got. Oh, that is next week. Okay. No, I was trying to see if we could figure out what weight class he was in, but.
I think it's I think he's welterweight. It could be lightweight, but again, I think that's what weight Luna is at.
Yeah.
I don't think he's middleweight. But him maintaining the body triangle from the mount is just something I can't recall the last match we've seen someone do that from. And he did a great job of preventing Mike from being able to like bridge him off in that position. He was fighting his feet initially.
And sometimes people do it like under people's butts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But not like around someone's back.
He kind of started there initially. That's where he started, and then he moved up a little higher and really just heavy pressured his way for 2-3 minutes on the mount, just heavy like chest over face pressure, and then eventually pops Mike's arm over, gets the head and arm, squeezes from mount, and that was it. Retains his title. So a really quick match on Fight to Win. I like when champions go out to sub. Mateus Luna looked good. He retained his title here at Fight to Win, and that was his weekend.
Yep, that was his weekend.
So that was Fight to Win. Fight to Win returns. Is it next week?
Next week, it looked like California.
Okay, probably
East
back.
Bay, which is
Which
that San Diego?
San Diego or San Francisco? One of the sands.
East Bay, California.
One of the sands in California.
Yeah.
He's going to be there. So, yep, love seeing Fight to Win. So, do you want to run through Luke Griffith's?
It's San Francisco.
It is San Francisco. Okay,
Yeah.
East Bay. So, you want to run through the winners? Because we have all the winners up here.
We can go through the winners.
And then we'll run through Luke's division?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, ADCC, again, unlike the World Championships that are every 11 kilograms, for the Opens, they're every 5 or so kilograms.
Yeah, there's like some weird ones in there.
Yeah. So, men's 60 kilogram division, Dylan Cameron, Andrew DeGraff, Joey Dial. These are all in order 1, 2, 3. 65 kilograms, which was my mat most of the day. We had Dorian Olivares, Logan Marshall, and Landon Elmore. Dorian, because I watched him compete all day, I think he's a B-team guy. I can't quite tell. I looked him up.
I think he is.
I looked him up after because he's represented B-team on
name.
Combat Jiu-Jitsu, I think. He's represented them before. And
recognize
think
the
those
name.
guys have talked about him.
Yeah, no, I think they have.
But I thought he was older, and I realized he's the young kid that they're talking about, Dorian. I think that's the kid they keep talking about. And after seeing him this weekend, I buy the hype.
Yeah, he's definitely B team, and he's definitely
Yeah, dude, he
He's
impressed the shit out of me. And those guys have been talking about him for a little bit.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen him.
He's 16 years old.
Dude, he is something else.
Yeah.
He went through guys, and he's still. I say this.
He's a wrestler too.
I say this with full respect. He's still really raw.
Yeah.
And you saw him. I'm not going to say they're not mistakes. they are like, you saw him address certain situations where it's like, oh, you're just heavy pressure forward, and like there was a little less of that nuance in how he made his transitions, and just like, oh, he is just gonna overwhelm guys and run through them, and if you can kind of stave him off, you can force him into a second gear and like kind of not trouble him, but you can make him work on you.
Yeah.
But if you can't deal with the onslaught that he puts up initially for you, he's going to run through you. And so a lot of guys this weekend, he just ran through. He had a couple of tough matches. His match with Logan Marshall at the end, I think Logan Marshall's I think this was a 10th Planet guy, that Dorian gets like right the last, I think like 3 seconds of the match. Really, really close. They were about to go to overtime. I think Dorian had passed him, so he had points going into it, but he ended up subbing him. Dorian has a really, really good like north-south and a head and arm game that was on display there. But watch out for Dorian Olivares because
it looks like he's training to fight too.
Yeah, he looks like I think he's fighting as well. Yeah, because he's doing a bunch of on Instagram. He's doing a bunch of pad work, but
well, he's doing a bunch of pad work as a kid.
Yeah,
like he's still like
he's 16.
Yeah, I mean, he's like 13, 14. He's winning all these wrestling tournaments. Yeah. And then it's like he goes to Thailand to train with them. And
yeah, dude, he is a monster. Yeah. And one of those guys you look around at a tournament and he got the big headphones on, got the hoodie on. Yeah.
And little kid, big, huge competitors going against him.
Yeah. So watch out for him. Some of his matches on 65 kilograms were really interesting. I guess we're probably going to see him at trials as he gets bigger, and even you can see in the past like 6 months how much bigger he's gotten.
Yeah,
just in his post because he's a kid. But yeah, he impressed the shit out of me here at 65 kilograms on my mat. Was lucky enough to catch a bunch of matches for him. So that's always fun. That's why I love going and doing these events. 70 kilos. Didn't get a chance to see any of these guys, but heard them in the arena. DeAndre Corbray from Standard takes first place in that division. We have Louis McLennan. Give me that name, Miranda. McLendon and Henrique Barreto in 70 kilograms. 76 kilograms. We had Pierre Leclerc taking first place at a TriStar.
Yeah.
It's funny. He's one of the guys that never fully made the shift down to New York and never made the shift down to Austin.
Yeah.
He was with those guys for a while, and then he's always gone back up to TriStar. And
I think he's from that area too.
Yeah. He
just never left.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Like Crownston left and Taza left, and like he was that group of three probably 8 years ago. Yeah. That was like Pierre.
He's still been winning.
Taza.
He's been winning a lot of shit lately.
Yeah, I mean
he's
won
in a lot of different things.
He won Ottawa. Yeah. The Ottawa Open for ADCC, and like we've seen him do well in trials. Like he's the guy that's been on our radar for a long time, and it's cool to see him again fly all the way into Dallas, Texas, and win one here. We have Michael Sains in second place and CJ Murdoch in third place. I refed. Sorry, not refed. I'm going to keep saying refed. I judged. I don't ref for ADCC. I judged for ADCC. A couple of CJ's matches, and he threw a lot of guys off because he
has an unorthodox style.
That's a very nice way to put it. He will like maintain a weird distance on guys, and he will like bob and weave and through you.
People also don't know how to respond to someone who goes from like middle distance, far distance, middle, because like there's certain things you do when somebody is close distance to you, middle distance to you, far distance, and he just kind of goes in and out and in and out, and you don't really know what the fuck he's doing. Yeah. And then he might do some kind of weird, like,
Was he a wrestler?
I think he was at some point. I could be completely wrong with that, but he also he has a lot of very unorthodox movements.
Yes.
Let's say it that way. More like almost like a tradition.
He reminds me a ton of Kevin Crane.
Yeah.
In the same way where
like
he
a traditional martial arts kind of people.
Yes. He tends to wave his hands. He was waving his hands around a lot. And it was the couple of guys I saw him go against, they were like thrown off by him in general. He's Pedigo, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And so he was neat to watch. It's cool again to see him flying down. I actually talked with his team a little bit about some of the points that happened in his match and what we were looking for, why we gave some activity calls, and just like his team, because it was the match that I did that he was on was later in the day, so there was a little bit of a lull.
Yeah.
So I got a chance to actually speak with his team and give them some information about ADCC scoring and the rules and like what we were looking for and like what when they went to the points period, what had happened in the shift that happened, and they had a couple really good questions about shot scoring.
Okay.
That I appreciated, and they were asking, okay, and I got to explain to them, okay, when you shoot, so in ADCC, if you don't know, if you shoot in the points period, and you make an effort and actually are looking to take your opponent down for 3 seconds or more, you can then pull guard and not be assessed a negative.
Okay.
If you go in and shoot into the guy for 2 seconds and then stop, or just hold the leg and then pull guard, you get a -1. You get a negative point. And so a lot of guys, the rule and in judging and refereeing and all the rule seminars, Jay's done a really good job of better explaining that rule to guys over and over again. Like, if you, basically the refs and the judges know what we're looking at, you actually have to be making an effort to get the person down. You can't just be like holding. You can't just
hold their leg and do a 3 count and then sit.
Now you can be there and reaching out for them.
Yeah.
And if they are actively needing to drive you back down and push you away, that can count.
Yeah.
And it's subjective, but you have to be making an actual effort to get to the leg and to work to get them down. And so they had some questions about that. And then if you pull before that has happened, like if you go for 2 seconds and then pull to the bottom, you get a -1 because you didn't drive forward for 3 seconds. And so there's also a weird rule with if you do that and then turtle, if they counter and then you turtle, and then turtle for 3 seconds and then pull guard.
Yeah, because turtle is, you go back to
neutral.
neutral.
Yeah, because you're back to back and that becomes a neutral position for 3 seconds. Then you go to neutral. So, and it was nice to be able to explain all throughout the weekend. I spent a ton of time between matches, as we got the next match set up, speaking to the coaches and the athletes and like giving them the information that they would need to, again, go and be successful. Because the big thing that Mo and Jay and a lot of the other senior staff in ADCC are really pushing and imploring the primary and secondary judges is these open events are being used to train the athletes, the up-and-coming athletes, the senior athletes, everyone there in the community at large on how the worlds happen and how trials happens, to give them an opportunity to be successful at trials and have experience in the rule set.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the big but historically ADCC has not had a lot of opens in the U.S. And so a lot of people going into trials, East Coast trials and West Coast trials, looking for a slot into the World Championships have, that is their first match in trials is the first time that they've ever had an ADCC rules match. And so because it's so different, maybe them or their coach or their team is unfamiliar with exactly what the scoring criteria is. And so they'll make tactical mistakes, they'll make technical mistakes, they'll make mistakes in their preparation for that event. And so the goal with the Opens is, hey, there are regular events in the US and in Canada and in Mexico that you can go and compete in that give you an opportunity to go and learn and make these mistakes at an open level so that when you go to trials, you've been able to prepare properly, your team and you and your coach all know the rules properly so that we can get the highest and best level of competitor that is the best informed for the trials. And so I spent a ton of time this weekend doing that, informing and answering all those questions from even, everywhere from like little kids. I had a little kid walk over my table and went, I have a big sheet in front of me with a bunch of tick marks and tally marks where I mark initiations. And he was like, what's that? And I had a minute. I was like, okay. So I showed him. I was like, look, when a guy does something that is, that he is initiating a position, I write a tick mark. At the end of the match, if we go through overtime and there's still no score, we look at this here to determine which athlete is the winner. And it was like, it was like probably a 6-8-year-old kid, something like that.
Yeah.
It was like looking and like he had competed. I had judged some of his matches in Costa Mesa, and he was in Dallas now, and like he recognized me, and so he asked me a couple of questions about what I was doing, and he was super engaged and wanted to know about what was happening on the mat. And so that was really rewarding this weekend for that. Moving on, 83 kilograms. This was a banger division. I want to go back and watch some of these matches.
Why does it go from 76 to 83?
Yeah, Miranda, I have no idea.
That's kind of random.
It is. It's probably, I think.
It's normally every 5.
It's every 5 until it's not. And then it's 6, and then it's 7. I think it's probably because of the bell curve. Like, you just get, like at 65 and the lower weight classes, I think it's almost an even percentage of weight, I think is what it is. So it's not necessarily just 5 kilos. It's like a percentage of weight increase, like 11% or something like that, usually, which I like.
I don't know. I don't do math well.
No. 83 kilograms. We had Oliver Taza taking first, John Combs taking second, Sam Kilmer taking third.
That had to be an interesting division there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I saw Sam. I talked to Sam very, very briefly. Sam's local to us, Virginia, and he got kneed in the face at some point. So his face, there was a bunch of guys that had giant like black eyes, and Sam was one of the guys. And I'm really curious.
Well, it is ADCC. Sometimes you take a knee.
Sometimes you take a knee. I'm really curious to actually see this division because Combs has looked really good, Taza has looked really good, and Kilmer's a guy that's always super hard for everyone to deal with here locally. And so I'm really curious to see what he looked like. What he looked like in this bracket, because you and I have commentated a bunch of his matches. Zach and I have commentated a bunch of his matches. Josh and I have commentated a bunch of his matches.
And we see him around.
We see him around, Copa Virginia and Copa Elite pretty frequently. So he's out there looking good. That'll be a fun division to go back and rewatch. 91 kilo division. We have Mateus Lutz back again, winning another one. Stanley Rosa taking second. Abraham La Montague taking third. Mateus Lutz back. Yeah. I didn't see any of his matches. I saw like he was across the corner from me.
They were probably so short you couldn't have caught him if you really wanted to.
It's funny, like Mateus Lutz was just gone for a couple of years.
It's kind of like a Lucas Griffith. If you don't see the match begin, you don't see the match.
It was just done. It was funny. He was gone for a couple of years, and he's back, and now he was at the Denver Open, and he was at this Open. I think he won both.
Sometimes you got to take some time off.
Yeah, well, he broke his leg at Kasai. Remember that? With that heel hook. And then COVID happened, the pandemic happened, he was kind of gone, and now he's made a resurgence, and like, watch out for Mateus Lutz at trials. I actually commentated one of his matches probably 5 or 6 years ago at this point on Arena Grappling versus Andrew Cockle.
Oh.
Years ago.
I remember that. That was
really
the one
hard to find at Paper Street.
Yeah.
That was the main event of that card. And I may actually go try to see if I can find that, because that whole card is gone now for various reasons.
Well, they don't really...
They had a rebranding.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see if I can go find that match now, because it'd be really curious.
If not, I can ask for it.
Yeah,
I'm just run it.
I just want to see if I can find that match again, because I want to see kind of how Mateus Lutz has changed from 5 years ago when he was like I think a new brown belt at the time.
Yeah.
To now like winning these opens. 100 kilo division, Giancarlo Bodoni taking first, like last minute. He decided to go in, which is
but he's
your champion. He's your 88 kilo champion.
He's good enough that he can do that. He can be like, I want to do it today, and he'll just do it.
Yeah,
and be completely fine.
But I just love that we have. When's the last time you had an ADCC champion enter like a regular Nogi event? Not very often.
Not very often.
Nogi Worlds, but like Giancarlo Bodoni, under 88 kilo champion for ADCC, just enters the Open.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, and he wins.
What's also fun is that number 2, number 3 guy are both local.
Oh,
Dashi Goto is from New Jersey.
Oh, really?
I want to say it's a Balance affiliate in New Jersey.
Oh, I should know that.
Because I think he coaches one of my friends sometimes in her matches, I think. If I'm thinking of the correct person, and I think I am.
And then third place, we have Brian Guevara. And so Brian's a standard guy. I've commentated a bunch of his matches for Copa Virginia and Copa Elite and Copa Maryland. He's won the cash prize divisions here locally for those tournaments. And so pretty familiar with his game. Super intense guy. He was on my flight that got delayed back to Baltimore last night. And so I got a good chance to talk to him about his match with Bodoni.
He's from Webb.
Okay, I recognize
and Webb is a balance school.
Yeah. So I talked to Guevara a little bit, and it was cool to talk to him because he's a guy that's aiming for trials, and I interviewed him after Copa Maryland because he won the cash prize division for that event, and I interviewed him. I was like, hey, it was a great interview. It's up on, I think, YouTube or Instagram on Copa Jiu-Jitsu tournaments.
I just remember seeing him because he has a man bun.
Yes.
And like for whatever reason, that was always like stuck. So like
He's also like 115. Here's 215 and like 6'3".
Yeah, he's a ginormous man with a man bun. And I would always find the man bun. And I was like, oh, it is the man. And I knew like what school he went to. No, I knew what school he went to, and I knew he had a man bun. And I didn't know what his name was.
Yeah.
And at Nogi Worlds, I'm like going through the records, and I'm like, who's coming up from Standard? And I'm like trying to figure out his name.
Standard brought a bunch of guys down. I think Alex Wynn won her division. We'll talk about that in the women's divisions. But yeah, Brian, it was cool to talk to Brian about the match. He had a match with Luke Griffith, and he had a match with Giancarlo Bodoni. And I'm like, that is a rough, and he was like, again, as any good competitor is, upset that he had lost those matches. Yeah. But it was cool to talk to him about being able to feel that level. And it's like, hey, man, you took on the ADCC current 88 champion. Yeah. That is an experience. I think Brian is technically a purple belt still.
Yes, he's a purple belt.
In quotes there, he's a purple belt still. But like, it is always cool to see tournaments like this because you get guys like, again, how often do you get to fight the ADCC champion of a division? And it's one division probably below what
it's like
what he's doing.
It's like when I did trials, I went against the freaking combat jiu-jitsu champion.
Yeah.
At 135. You get some crazy matchups.
But you get to feel that level, and you go, okay, that's the level. And for guys like Brian that are aiming to make their career of this, feeling like, okay, that's the level that I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking for is hugely valuable as a competitor. And he's the guy that's going to come back to his gym. And I think we're going to see big things out of him at trials. Very, very excited. So that's 100 kilograms. At plus 100 kilograms, Luke Griffith, first place in both his weight and the absolute. Michael Egley and Kevin Stratfield. And then
Satterfield.
How'd I get that?
You added some extra letters.
I tend to do that over the years. And in the absolute, we had Luke Griffith, Elder Cruz in second, and Sergio Vilas in third. Sergio was also on my flight that was delayed 5 hours. So
is he local or is he
he's Crazy 88?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's probably about he's lower. It's like 20 minutes.
That's how I recognize the name. Okay.
So we've seen him as well.
I've seen him a bunch of times. I've seen him on finishers and that kind of stuff.
He's been on finishers, and he looked good. I did a couple of his matches. I might have done one of his matches in the absolute. I think I had a couple of his matches in weight, and like I was really I think absolute because he ran through a couple of guys really quick in absolute, and I haven't watched a ton of him in a while. I've only seen him locally a little bit. Really, really impressed with what he looked like. Versus these guys. Women's divisions, 55 kilos. Alex Wynn from Standard Jiu-Jitsu at under 55. I always think that Alex Wynn is bigger. I think she was the 2-division Midwest finishers champion.
She is.
And was it at 25 and 15 or was it 25 and 35?
I think it's 25 and 35 for whatever reason.
Because I know
I could be wrong with
Alex
that.
Is not, I think she's like a 115er.
No.
Or a 125er.
She's a 125er.
Okay.
Because I think she's a little bit smaller than me.
Okay.
So I think she's right around she's smaller than me. But she's younger. She's also like 20 years.
It kind of speaks to Standard, though. It's like you got a bunch of people from Standard, which is a gym here locally, that are going out to Dallas and placing. Second place, we had Andrea Amato. Third place, we have Nikayla Jackson. 60-kilogram division, Jasmine Hocha. Second place, Kayla Brown. Third place, Lila Watkins. Oh, in Jasmine Rocha news, she is taking on Fionn Davies as the co-main event for Who's Number One coming up.
Yeah, on the 10th of August.
Yeah, so that's in a couple months from now, but that's a fun match. I think it's still going to be under Who's Number One rules and not under ADCC rules.
Yeah, I think it's Who's Number One rules, and it's 125.
It's 125, but that going against your current ADCC champion is a tall order, but winning under 60 kilograms here at ADCC Open versus top level competition, that's a matchup. I mean, Jasmine's been looking better and better and better and better on all these events that we've seen her on. She's at second place at Worlds. Very curious to see how she does at trials, but I think going against Fionn in such short time after winning the Dallas Open is a really, really good benchmarking test and will only propel Jasmine further. So I'm super curious to see if she's going to win trials this year with this really great performance here at ADCC. The buzz was very, very big around Hocha, and again, I kind of expectedly she won her division. 65 kilograms, Helena Krovar taking first place.
Yeah.
And really surprised to no one, I think.
No.
I don't
So
think
I
she
was
was in the
surprised-
kids divisions this time. I think she was only in the adult divisions, which is
I was
reasonable.
surprised she wasn't in the absolute divisions. She wasn't in absolute.
She wasn't for women?
Mm-mm.
Huh. I don't know. I don't remember if she was there at the end of the evening. She might have
Yeah.
left earlier, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
I saw her. She was in the full tiger print all day, so she was very easy to pick out. She looked like she was
she
just
in tiger
running.
or she in like black and red? I thought she was in like some kind of black and red.
No, I thought that was the other event.
Oh, okay.
I think she was the full. Regardless,
Oh no!
always very
when I think
easy to
about
pick
it, when
out
I
at
think about it,
events.
I didn't watch her matches from this. I watched her matches from something else
Yeah.
recently.
But yeah, she ran through her division. She had a great post about it, and basically it's cool to see her continue to kind of climb. Look out for her at trials. I assume that she's going to go under 60 at trials, but I don't know if she's going to be able to make that weight is my only question.
Yeah,
Because she's like, I think she's taller than me by a little bit.
yeah, she's a big girl.
Yeah, so I think she's 17 now, 16?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. So, again, watch out for her. Second place in the 65 kilogram division, we have Sophia Delgado. Third place, we have Maria Golden. 70 kilogram division, Hannah Griffith takes first. Zelly Dolan takes second. Nora Schultz takes third. 70 plus kilogram division. But I think it's so funny that for opens, it's 70 and 70. And for the world, it's just 60 and 60.
Yeah,
70 kilogram, we have Bridget McLeese. Sarah, give me that last name, Miranda. Swalatek.
Swalowtech. So we're gonna go with that.
And Nicole Johnson. And in the absolute, we have Jasmine Hosha beating Bridget McAleese in the finals, and then Nora Schultz taking third place in that division. So crazy weekend of events.
Yeah.
Matches. Definitely a ton to go back and watch, but let's run through Luke Griffith's his absolute run here because he got it done. So I love that he's seeded 1 here. So if you go onto the Flow Grappling app, you can beat your head into eventually figuring out going to the videos, going to the tournament, and then you can click on a bracket, and it'll bring up on the lower bar the Flow Arena.
Yeah, it brings up the Flow Arena stuff.
And you can click the individual matches.
That's
Luke
the
Griffith,
only way to really pick up individual matches.
yeah, it is.
Other way, you'll drive yourself crazy.
Until they part them out better, but right now it's almost impossible to go find individual matches the day after the event. Luke Griffith is seeded 1. He's right at the top. It's easy to find.
But he doesn't get a bye.
He doesn't get a bye.
But
So
other
he's-
people get a bye,
like,
and they're
the
not. Yeah.
The first round, if you look at it, there's a bunch of buys and there's a bunch of forfeits.
Yeah.
And Luke Griffith in the first round, the round of 128.
But they also remember his first match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I reffed that match. He beat Nathan Cooley by sub, rear naked choke in a minute 26. Luke was warming up here. Second match, we went against. I only have the last names, and if I click through them, the audio will come through on the mic.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I'm just going to read the last names. Give me that last name. Nakashima. I think that was a 135-minute match. I think that was it. All of Luke's matches are either rear naked choke
Chokes.
or ankle lock.
Yeah.
And then in Sergio Vilas, he hits a guillotine.
Yeah.
But really quick, taking the back. I think he barambolos.
Yeah.
Nakashima.
He does. I believe this is the guy that pulled guard on him.
Yeah.
And then he just barambol.
It was like a barambolo, like ninja roll combo.
Yeah.
To get his back, which is, again, Luke Griffith. He was behind me for a couple of hours because there was a big break, and him and Giancarlo just sat behind our table and just talked about matches, and just I just got to listen to them talk and not bother them, which was great. He is ginormous.
Does he have an accent?
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit. But it was crazy, like, to think about that Luke Griffith is 6'5" and above 100 kilos. And then the fact that he can ninja roll and barambolo people. So watch this match. It's a minute and a half long.
Men of that size scare me when they can do like little people.
That's
things.
what I'm saying. He didn't
Little
do
people
it
tricks.
like a little guy. He did it like a guy at like welterweight or lightweight.
Yeah.
This is not the way that he baramboloed here is not something that we ever see from guys of his size.
Generally not.
Ever. I can't pick a guy that size.
Every once in a while, you get somebody that can do it. I don't know of anybody at a high level, but I know like of guys.
You can get low level guys that'll
Yeah.
do it versus not a low level guy. In an absolute in an ADCC Open
Yeah.
to do it like this as smooth as he did. And it wasn't like when he went to turn the hooks over, it wasn't like he was fighting the hook and he just was already in position. He's so much taller and longer than the guy he was against, which usually...
They're also both in the same school.
I might know. They're both New Wave guys.
So they might know what the other
I forgot they're both New
what
Wave.
the other one's about to do.
Yeah. So Luke takes the back. Luke
Yeah.
gets the choke.
Even though that he's not technically New Wave, he's probably a junior or whatever the hell they call that.
But he's registered
Yeah.
as New Wave.
Yeah, exactly.
In the round of 32, we had Luke Griffith versus Brian Gavetta, who we just, again, spoke very highly of. 18-second sub for Luke.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Brian about this match because I was just I was curious because
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to see it firsthand until today when I watched the replay. And he was talking about Brian had a match earlier in the day with Bodoni. And he had taken Bodoni to points, and Bodoni beat him on points. And so going into this match, he had expected Luke to wrestle a little more because Luke, up until this point for a lot of the matches in the division, had been wrestling. And so Luke immediately pulls, immediately goes into the legs, and then gets a really nice ankle lock. And you see him kind of belly down and belly through,
Yeah.
and Guevara does a great job of like trying to yank the foot out. He's unable to. It was just really interesting because this match specifically reminded me of Luke Griffith's run at Grapple Fest.
Okay.
He's not on the next Grapple Fest card, but I talked to him a little bit. He's hoping not this card, but the following card to be on because he's their under 100 kilogram champion, and he has to cut to make that weight.
I'm sure he does.
So this match reminded me of like, oh, right, he's going to wrestle sometimes. He's also going to pull. You can't necessarily plan for like exactly what Luke Griffith is going to do because he's not going to do the same thing every time. And I can't imagine having to game plan for someone like Luke because you have to then plan like, okay, I'm going to wrestle a 6'5" guy, or I'm going to be trying to pass the guard of a 6'5" guy or retain my guard on a 6'5" guy.
Technically, you're supposed to be playing your game and not playing to your opponent's game.
And I understand I understand that
because
mentality.
that's something that I've had to teach myself because I'm that way. Like I'll see somebody and I'll be like, "Oh, this is what I need to do," but then I make shit decisions.
Oh, they're a De La Riva player. Make sure like,
Yeah.
but it's just so I can't imagine what it is like to game plan against Luke Griffith, because
you can't.
Yeah, because
you just
he
gotta
may pull,
do
he may sit, he may wrestle.
You just got to do whatever you can do.
Yeah. So that was that match. In the next match, Luke gets a 1 minute and 4 second sub.
I can just imagine like his, like if he grabbed behind your head, he would just put your face through the mat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His
collar ties have to be ridiculous.
He was so
horrible.
It was neat to watch him because he does it for as big of a guy as he is.
Yeah.
Even in the Elder Cruz match, we'll talk about here in a second. He was super smooth.
Well, they were super smooth for the first like maybe minute, and then you saw like he tried to trip Elder Cruz.
Let's get through the matches first. We'll do that. Kevin Forbes hits a rear naked choke in a minute and 4 seconds. Moves on to Renee Souza. He gets Renee's back in like a slide by, essentially. Passes Souza's guard, goes to north-south, immediately gets behind his back, gets the choke in 43 seconds. I think this might have been my mat. I saw this one live. I don't remember if I was the judge for this because I didn't need to.
Yeah.
Because it didn't go that far. In the semifinals, Luke takes on Sergio Vilas, a 33-second modified guillotine.
Yeah.
That Sergio. So
I didn't even think it would work. Like it made me. I had to watch it multiple times because I'm like, you're not supposed to be able to guillotine someone. Like
I watched this a couple times as a guillotine aficionado myself.
I was like, I don't think you can do that.
I wish ADCC had better cameras for this because it's kind of hard to see. But
and they're just all of their camera work for this was not.
Well, it was mounted cameras on the signs.
They do have guys walking around with cameras filming, but I have no idea where that film is.
I'm hoping we get some more highlight footage and some footage of this stuff this week.
I saw some of the stuff online, but it wasn't enough of anything I really wanted to see.
So I'm hoping we get that footage out the next week. But Luke snaps Sergio down from the chest to back. He then grabs the guillotine in and sits under Sergio. Sergio is also a pretty tall and long guy, and Sergio passes around to the side.
Yeah, which I'm like, if he passes around to the side, he should be fine. No.
Yeah.
His head's about to pop off.
Luke doesn't even it didn't even look like Luke adjusted his grip.
No,
with his
didn't.
hands. And Sergio's like almost in
He might have
north-south.
just like squeezed his head.
I think that's what he did.
I think he just squeezed his head.
Because Sergio's pass almost like the place where you can Von Flu someone.
Yeah.
And then, but Sergio never drops his weight down, and
Yeah.
Luke just kind of arches and
I bet you he squeezed it.
I think just squeezed. You're right. Just
Yeah.
squeezed, and Sergio goes up and taps.
I have a white belt that's brand new, and she just squeezes my head. Like she'll literally get around my head and just squeeze it. And yeah, it's something.
It's something else.
It's something.
But again, to have it in the semi, like I watched some of Sergio's early matches for his bracket, and then in the absolute, he was crushing guys in the absolute up into
If
this
it's
match.
your neck and you're getting squeezed, I mean, do you want to win or do you want your neck?
Look, Sergio taps,
Yeah.
but I was just astonished because I've watched a lot of guillotines. I've done a lot of guillotines. I have very rarely ever seen someone be able to guillotine from this position.
Yeah, well, that's what I said too, because from the position he got to, he should have been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he wasn't, and then Luke got his neck. So Luke has, again, special attributes to allow him to
maybe
finish
he like
this up.
fist choked him or something.
I don't know. I wish we could see the camera. I hope one of those
Maybe it was
side cameras.
Maybe it was a diesel squeezle.
Maybe. I'm hoping from that side camera on the mat, we can see what it is, and that footage comes out this week.
Yeah.
But crazy sub. In the semifinals on the other side, we have, is it Cameron Crump?
It
Caleb.
is Caleb.
Caleb Crump versus Elder Cruz. This one was a 4-point by Cruz. Again, Cruz plays a little bit from the outside, and he gets Crump down.
Yeah.
Kind of off the mat, but to the side, and he's able to get a clean takedown
But that's
on
like
him.
towards the very end of the match.
I think it's an overtime.
No, it's towards the end of the match.
Oh, it's match
They
time?
don't.
Not ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't go to overtime.
Oh, right, they don't.
But it's
So-
like towards the end of the match.
Yeah.
Because
So
like
I had come and walked down because my matches were finished,
because
so I
they're
actually had to watch this
screaming
mat
like
side.
45 seconds to the end and like 30 seconds to the end when they're down, and then they get
Right.
back up. I was surprised by Caleb's great mullet.
Yeah.
He had a super mullet going.
So I watched a
on.
couple of his matches on my mat earlier in the day. Really good wrestling. Got by a bunch of guys,
Yeah.
but Elder again, just the physicality.
Well,
a lot of guys can't deal with the physicality of Elder Cruz.
From the video, you just keep on hearing Caleb's coach going, "Your conditioning is better than his. You're gonna outlast him." And I'm like, "Who are you looking at? Have you ever watched Elder Cruz?"
Elder Cruz always looks exhausted. He'll always
But he
fight.
stays at the same pace. Like
Yes.
he doesn't really change pace.
No.
But he stays at a very similar pace. I do have to say he did in finals. The pace changed, but
Yeah.
generally he doesn't gas out. So I don't know why
No.
his coach was screaming at him.
I think you just kind of encourage your fighter, and
Yeah.
and it looked like, and Caleb had a gas for days. Like it was
Oh,
good.
yeah.
He just, and I remember watching the end of this match. You could see that Caleb needed to shoot a double or a
Yeah.
single on Elder, and Elder was keeping him far enough away because Caleb knew that Elder's sprawl and out
Yeah.
was going to be too far away from his ability to shoot.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get the inside
Yeah.
distance on Elder. And so beautiful tactics from Elder Cruz here. And
Oh,
like
yeah.
just getting the score, like he gets him down, which is great and like very hard to do.
Elder has really good counter wrestling.
Yes. His sprawl in this match was, for a guy that size,
Yeah.
he sprawls quick.
He's
I was
quick and he has really good
surprised.
responses to what he should be doing.
Yeah, he reminds me of Pedro Mourinho.
Yeah.
A lot in that same way, where he keeps that middle distance that guys struggle with, and then his ability to sprawl and get behind you or sprawl
Yeah.
and shuck you by.
Yeah.
Guys can't physically deal with him on top of them as quick, and that's kind of what we saw in this match. Into the finals match, we had Elder Cruz and Luke Griffith.
Yeah.
And Luke Griffith gets it done by sub. He hits him with a rear naked choke.
I think it's a rear naked choke.
Yeah, so-
it's off camera. You can't really see what's going
Yeah,
on.
so I was actually doing some other stuff at the venue because we got called over to do some other stuff, and so I missed this on the video. It's unfortunate because Luke Griffith takes Elder down off the side of the
Yeah.
camera, like they're on the mat still, but you can't really tell, and then hits a really nice kind of slip behind to end up with a body triangle on Elder's back in like
But what's
45 seconds.
What's interesting, this is a little bit of a longer match because what's interesting is if you watch in the beginning, they're kind of just like feeling each other out. And then all of
Yeah.
a sudden,
You
Luke.
said longer match. It's 1 minute and 12 seconds.
Okay, well, I felt like it was a longer match because there's a point at which Luke Griffith grabs like a collar tie and then tries to trip him.
Yes.
And like almost gets him to his butt. And Elder Cruz is like, fuck you. And you can feel the pace change.
Yes.
Because he starts coming like hard at him, which then Luke Griffith just kind of throws him by. But
Yeah. Luke, so I was really impressed with all of Luke's matches because for a guy as physically imposing as he is
controlled.
Weirdly controlled in a way where it's like, oh, I kind of want to see a guy push you to like open up your attributes. We saw him a little bit at Grapple Fest need to do that as well. I forget who he was against at Grapple Fest that made him do that, but for this entire Absolute run, there was no one that I saw him like have to lever down into a choke on or like squeeze in. You know how guys get the rear naked choke and you'll see them get it in, get the hand behind, and then just like go for it. And they'll do that like secondary squeeze where they're trying, they're putting everything they have into it. I did not once see Luke Griffith ever have to go there for any of his subs this weekend. And I was terrified because he was submitting guys without needing to do that. That is not something that we see at high levels from high level guys. Be able to just get the choke in and just squeeze. Like it almost, even Gordon will kind of bear down into stuff occasionally. Luke Griffith not once this weekend. And again, I couldn't see Elder's face and Luke's arms in the finish of this.
Yeah, we couldn't see anything.
But all of the subsequent earlier matches that I saw Luke in, didn't see him once lever in and like crunch down. He was just finishing guys casually with, positions. He did have to squeeze hard on Brian's leg for the submission. That was the only time I kind of saw him bear into a submission, but all of the chokes were just smooth either under the chin or right over the face and just squeezed down. Super impressed with
was it Santeri?
His entire run.
Santeri Light, that guy?
Yeah, Santeri Ludis.
That was
that was a fun match. So that was on Grapple Fest a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago. If you want to see kind of Luke, I might be wrong about that. I might have been a quick ankle lock finish too. But
I thought
regardless, Luke Griffith, keep watching him. Again, he won trials for European trials. Not European trials. Yeah, European trials as a South African.
Yeah.
Wins here at the Open. Big Dan was absent, so again, I assume that they kind of chose who was going to do which Opens because Big Dan's been winning the other Opens. He won the Canada Open. He won, he won at Costa Mesa versus Damon Ramos. I think he also won at, he might have won at Denver. I forget who was at Denver, but the New Wave guys are kind of the champions of the Open for the Absolutes, just consistently winning the Opens.
Yeah.
So that's impressive. Overall, a ton of great matches that I just digest this weekend. Bunch of great education happened for the athletes and the coaches, and it's really cool to see the level and the understanding of the rule set expand. So I don't have much else after that.
Yeah, that's about all I got.
So in 2 weeks, we have what do we got? We'll preview these more in depth in 2 weeks, but we have the Honor Submission Challenge coming up in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We have Grapple Fest coming up in 2 weeks, and we also have what was the other event?
We have Grapple Fest. We have
Honor Submission Challenge in Italy.
Yeah.
Again.
And then we have the who's number one, Margali versus Duarte.
Oh, that's in 2 weeks?
No, that's on 8/10.
Okay, that's 8/10. So
2 weeks we have Honor Sub Challenge and Grapple Fest.
Yep. So that should be a lot of fun. You want to read through the names for Grapple Fest or for both of those for Honor?
So for Honor we have Super Fights. We have John Disgracie versus Charles Negromonte. Jack Sears versus Diego Hayes.
Diego Hayes?
Hayes. Was it not Hayes?
No, I think it's Baby Shark.
It's Baby Shark.
Yeah.
Oh, wrong one.
It's all good. One of the other is Diogo. Hayes.
Diogo.
Yeah.
Diogo.
So Baby Shark, that'll be fun. Again, we haven't seen Baby Shark on a super fight in a little bit here, so excited to see the ADCC under 66 champion.
It is Diego.
It's Diogo.
Diogo. Hayes. My bad.
I only called him Diego for like a year, so that might have been my bad.
And then who else is on our sub challenge? Oh, and then we have this 4-way GP, which is Fabricio Andre, Keith Krikorian, Owen Jones, and Alicio Sacchetti.
It may possibly be Fabricio and Keith, but we'll preview that in more depth.
It also depends on how they bracket it because they put them both on the one side, then they're going against each other first.
I think we're going to see that match regardless, so that'll be fun to see Krikorian and Fabricio Andre versus each other. That should be. That's the one I'm excited about the most.
And that's in Italy. I think there's a whole like you go there and do like a bunch of seminars.
It's what we saw Penna and Wagner Hosha on.
Oh, okay.
That was Honor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was that event we saw, and that was a fun event. It was a really neat little venue.
Yeah.
I'm happy that it's back. Like they put on some great matches. They're just trying
to do more stuff in Europe too,
which I love. Again, I love the Europe. I love that Europe's not only showcasing a lot of the European talent, but also bringing over international talent on their cards too. Because it makes me go, oh, a card that maybe if it was just European talent, we wouldn't get a chance to cover.
Yeah.
If they bring international talent, I'll go, oh, definitely. And like I'll put people onto that, and they're a lot of fun.
And then we have Grapple Fest 16. Did you go over that?
I have not gone over that yet.
We have PJ Barch versus J-Rod.
That'll be super fun. Well, I cannot wait to preview that match next weekend. That's going to be probably a big chunk of next weekend is previewing that match. I know you're a PJ Barch fan.
Yeah.
So
I am.
That'll be a lot of fun.
And then Gabriel Souza versus Damian Anderson.
I love watching both those guys go, but Damian Anderson has won me over completely. Listening to him on Simple Man and like watching the B Team videos and like seeing him teach.
He seems fun.
Yeah.
Peyton Letcher is going against Nadine Tavares.
That'll be really fun too.
Yeah.
Letcher's looked really good recently. She just won Midwest Finishers.
Yes.
And she looked really good on Rise as well. So I'm very, very excited to see her in this matchup.
And then William Tackett versus Bradley Hill.
That should be fun as well. Go back and watch some Tackett matches and some Bradley Hill matches on Polaris. So that should all be fun. We will preview all of that next week, and then it'll be a good show. What do you got going on this week?
That's about it.
I'm running out of voice very quickly.
I got nothing. I'm off most of this week, so I'm just gonna train and try to clean my house.
Nice.
And try to I don't know, not do anything.
Take a break.
Every once in a while, you just need to not do anything.
Yeah. That'll be this week for me. Except this weekend, I'm doing prep for Copa Elite.
Okay, I'm reffing
Virginia
Saturday for
Good Fight.
No, Hammer Fight Challenge.
Oh, nice. Okay.
In Jersey.
You're like the main ref for them now.
I ref for them all. They ask me and I do it.
Hey,
it's fun.
It's awesome.
It's just an interesting rule set. It's a rule set I have to wrap my head around before I do every single event.
And that's what I got to do. I got to go back to IBJJF rules now for Copa Elite.
Well, after that, then I have to. I'm gonna register for New York Open. I'm like, nice. Because I need something to kind of warm up before Masters, because Masters is gonna be ginormous.
Yep, it's gonna be big. But I'm just laughing that I had to ramp up from other events we were doing to then I had to ramp ADCC rules. Now I have to ramp back into IBJJF rules to do commentary for Copa Elite. So it's gonna be a big week of me probably texting Josh and some other folks like, okay, IBJJF is this is the rule for them. Okay, so that I can again not sound like an idiot on commentary, because that is my most frustrating thing for broadcast is having commentators that don't know what they're talking about. It's like, hey man, have respect to the athletes, have respect to the event, know the event.
Well,
so I want to practice what I preach there.
It's the same thing for athletes. It's like, know your rule set.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that, but that is what my week looks like. Gonna get some sleep, gonna get my voice back so that I can actually commentate. If you want to watch Copa Elite, you can find the link to do that. Here, Zach and I commentate that on Instagram for Copa Jiu-Jitsu tournaments. Should be a really, 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 really exciting event. The last one was phenomenal. I can't wait for the second installment of it. So
isn't Yuta Shimada have a?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe Yuta Shimada.
He's going against somebody.
Yeah, the whole card is good. It's got a $3,000 cash prize division with a bunch of entrants in it, and overall, we'll probably talk about it in depth coming week.
I only thought about that because this morning I had to teach drop Sayanagis.
And you thought about Yuta Shimada?
And he's who now, when I think of drop Sayanagis, he's who immediately comes to mind.
So Miranda and I commentated Copa Virginia a couple months ago, and Yuta Shimada was in his gi division, and then on a kind of whim, he also entered the Nogi Absolute division. Yeah, and
not training Nogi for a long period of time.
He hadn't trained Nogi since ADCC 2017 or 15.
Yeah.
He won trials at ADCC, and that was like the last time he had trained Nogi. And then Dimitri asked him, like, you want to be in this tournament? And he went, I'm here, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And so, we got a good chance to talk to him then.
He hits some drop Sayanagis that are fabulous.
Got some beautiful judo and Nogi and gi. So. So he's on the event, and there's a bunch of other guys on the event. Cameron Hurd's on the event. I am super excited for it. Yeah. So it should be a phenomenal event. Anything else you got going on?
I don't think so.
All right. So as always on the show, I'm your host Maine. It's my co-host
Miranda.
And we are the Grappling Miranda. See you on that. Whatever it is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
Let us know.
reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.